Intelligence.
Hardcore, free for all. Mark all threats and engage.
The language still exists a week from now. Yes, it does. Because it has, it already existed in the past. Therefore, it still exists. I guess I don't know how to explain.
Well, yeah, I was just
because
trying to
civilizations
broaden that.
thousands of years ago are dead, doesn't mean the language they created doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's still
there's a lot of
exactly.
them
Extinct, and
I watch porn all the time, man on man.
are slightly different. I would put them in a slightly different category.
I mean, honestly, we are asking some very big questions, right? This is in, like, regards to, like, fucking time and shit. Like, if time travel was possible, right? Maybe you'd say, oh shit, no, there's no such thing as, like,
Yes,
exactly. Time, 'cause you can always go back into the past and re-get that concept, right? So even if nobody had written language, right, and there's some tribe, like, 50,000 years ago that spoke a language and all just fucking died, right? Did that language stop existing? Someone might say no, oh, you can travel back in time and you can relearn it, so it didn't stop existing because the universe still carries that memory and that capacity with it. Or, you know, some
the language is technically it's extinct because no one speaks it. However, it still exists. Like hieroglyphics, for example. I know this is a poor analogy, but I don't know what else to compare it to. Like Egyptians spoke a language, it went extinct because just like hypothetical. I don't know if anyone speaks that anymore, but hypothetical Egyptian language is gone. No one speaks it anymore. Therefore, it's extinct. However, it still exists.
I mean, no, but to be charitable to myth, I would probably say that.
Pretty sure it would just be called dead language.
No, yeah, but like if like in that first example, right, 50,000 years ago, there's a tribe that spoke a language and they all died and they didn't write anything down at all. They had no carvings. I would call that not existing anymore.
Wow.
Personally, right? And like, I would argue that would be a good way to represent it. But like, I'm not talking like on a super metaphysical sense or something, right? Like a epistemic or like, yeah, I guess metaphysics is the branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that deep, right? I just say, you know, practically it doesn't exist.
You stupid ass bitch.
I wouldn't start like questioning, you know, linearity of time or something to go that deep. Yeah, but I'd probably say, yeah, it doesn't exist. But yeah, when we go to like that, you know, if there's no minds,
Yeah, fascists.
could immorality still exist? I would say maybe. It could, like, someone could argue that it could. Yeah.
When you say it doesn't
Fascists.
exist, you don't mean like never exists, just like no longer.
I guess
mean,
the
like,
current state. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, my grandfather is dead. I don't suggest that he never existed. Right? Like that. Yeah.
What's that?
Like, yeah, well, yeah, or you know, there was a star, right, and it blew up, and
something at
you
me.
know, became our solar system, right? Because
What the hell? My game's glitching.
all higher order matter, right, like metals and shit, were once hydrogen that went through a star, right? I wouldn't say that star still exists, right? The materials that were in that star exist, but yeah, I wouldn't say that star exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Right,
fellas,
and-
we got.
So God doesn't
we gotta
exist. All right.
We gotta change the subject, okay? This has been dragging along for like.
Yeah,
This is insane, all right? They're talking about it in the side chat right now. We can start a debate if God exists or not. I'll start with no. If anyone wants to
No.
debate me on that,
No.
Actually, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
don't know.
I don't know.
Not
Could
likely.
I elaborate?
I could.
Could I
How about a
in
good
the
debate?
future?
Would be arguing for the likelihood that if there was a god, it wouldn't be anything of the constructed religions that we see today.
it wouldn't be one of the 3,000 we have now.
Could I please get a chance to paint a picture for you all, and then maybe perhaps you
Enlighten me,
could.
please, fascist. Make this personalized for me.
So imagine you saw somebody walking on the street, and they dropped their wallet, and they didn't notice. What'd you do?
Return personally.
Yeah,
There was a
I'd
time in
pick
my
the
life I
wallet up,
wouldn't have, but I would and justify it.
Pick the wallet up, steal all of their credit cards, and give it back to them.
Well, the
Just their
first answer I definitely can relate to, but
No, but for real,
there's definitely a lot of people that would just willingly go
yeah,
pick up the
yeah,
wallet
that
and
was a
return it to the
joke.
person.
I mean, people need it. People need to feed their families.
Yeah, man, and how do you know that? And how do I know?
Well, it's a
And
thing
how do
about
others know that?
perspective. Like I could say again for myself, I'm like there would have been a time where I'm like I probably would have ravaged it before returning, or if at all, and kind of a thing. So it's all about perspective of where you are in life or what one goes through.
Yeah, definitely. We have this special capability of putting ourselves in other people's shoes, and this is empathy, right? This is something that animals don't have,
What's up,
right?
mate?
And the fact that I'm able to put
Or
myself
animals.
even. Well, you know what, man? I wouldn't say we have dominion over them, man, because being a human is not the same as being an animal. I think this is what Jesus tried to show.
No, we're like an animal in every single way, and from our.
No, man.
We are
Animals
fine
don't have a
with
conscience. What is this
Yeah,
conscience?
they do.
that
Yes, they have a
that-
conscience.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, they have a conscience. Yes, they have a conscience. What are you
No,
talking
they
about?
don't. No, they don't.
If they
No,
can
they
think,
don't have a
if
conscience.
they can think, then they have a conscience. Let
No.
me put it this way. Let me put it this way for you. So, my dog, if I teach it to sit, it sits, right? Because it thinks and it knows what sit. When I tell it sit, it knows what sits. It knows
How
what
do you do
sit
that?
means.
How do
Because
you
I
train your
taught
dog
it.
to do that?
I taught it. How do you know how to walk? How do you know how to walk?
How do you know how to sit?
Yeah,
How do you know how to sit?
How do you know how to
No,
sit?
well, nobody gave me a treat to teach me how to sit, right?
Yeah, you
As a
did.
little
Your
dog-
mom hugged you and
dog
kissed you and told you
Your
she
mom-
loved
yeah.
you and what a good boy you are every time you did it.
Yeah, what are you
You got
saying?
positive
think anyone
reinforcement the same way.
I don't think anyone taught me how to sit, man. I just
Okay,
wanted to
well,
sit.
it's an analogy.
Dog-
It's not okay. When you said your first word, when your parents were teaching you to say mom for the first time, and you said it, you got positive reinforcement. Okay, that's teaching you how to say something the same way I taught my dog how to say.
Internet is bad, or
No, it's probably I don't know, but
I don't want to hit and pull us too far away. I think the more interesting conversation would be if we are different than animals.
I
If
think my
we are
internet is-
different, where we are different than the rest of the animal kingdom is distinct, but where we're similar is infinitely more than our differences.
yeah, we actually share DNA with a banana. Did you know that? Don't think you did. We are similar
So
to.
the difference
Are you
is that you're
listening
trying
to
to
the
hide it
jump
as being like
today. Because that was brought up. Because T-Jump was talking with Kent Hovind today. You know, the whole
That's the older
banana
video.
thing gets brought up. Well, that's the thing. It was running live. Maybe he just premiered it or something again. But I was hoping it was a second time.
not
or something.
super old, not super old. It is the second time, but it came out like a week and a half ago.
Oh, heard. But yeah. Okay, never mind. I just listened to it today. Just heard that. So.
But yeah, that is a good. It is like a kind of a funny analogy. But But yeah, I definitely do think we're different than the rest of the animal kingdom that we're a part of. The differences that we have are
definitely
great.
own branch, yeah, definitely.
No doubt about it. We're on our own little category of animal.
Yeah, Fesh,
Animal
the only
nonetheless,
difference,
but yes.
the only difference
Yeah.
between us and other humans is consciousness level. Okay, we all have consciousness, but it's just how advanced the consciousness is.
Yeah.
So just because we're advanced and we can do math, for example, and animals can't, it doesn't mean just you can't just completely void their consciousness. It just means they have a lesser consciousness than us, and they're not as well-rounded in the mind as we are.
Yeah, like there's like the consciousness of like the say certain sea animals and everything like that, and I'm like to them like they know their whole world, but they only know half of it, whereas we
Friendly mosquito deployed.
awesome enough to get both sides of land and sea and all of
Enemy
it.
holds the lead. Clock's ticking.
Yeah, but the perfect proof of consciousness in animals is that I'm able to teach my dog to sit, but it can't do as much as I can.
I would say,
It doesn't have the
yeah, I would say
same-
much more of like what kind of tasks can they accomplish to get to what certain means. And
Well,
like,
I would.
how
Yeah, it's about
complex they are.
deploying your consciousness. That's what deploying your consciousness and how it affects reality around you. But I would just like to say that I would like fascists to kind of pursue this a little more and go into more detail about if we're different, which we are, but you think those differences are more important and more impactful than the similarities, I'm assuming. What is it? Why is that the case? Other than because God told you that we're special.
I would actually. So I want to. His internet's probably not, but I'll play a little devil's advocate. So they are more impact. The differences are more impactful than the similarities because of the amount of stuff that humans have done compared to the rest of animals.
I think we just
And
gained
the
right.
difference is.
Is it crazy to assume though that if dogs could deploy our level of consciousness, dogs would create dog hospitals?
Yeah, but they can't deploy the same
Yeah,
level of consciousness.
Right, but what I'm saying is
they
if
evolved
anything
with that, they could have been different for sure. Like
anything
having
that would have deployed, anything that would have evolved in our direction, the same direction we did, if it was a dog or a bat or a cat, they would have developed hospitals
and a dog wouldn't
and
look like a dog
universities
now.
Wait, says who? They're like extremely limited when it comes to physical attributes.
No, exactly.
Like,
If
they cannot do the
not if
things
they just
we do.
deployed the consciousness, but if they evolved and like had this
Yeah,
consciousness,
they would
as they
need
evolved.
fingers and they'd have to land.
I don't know if they would
stand
need
legs
fingers. Their
and-
brains could develop things and ways around that.
But boss, that's what I'm saying with why the differences separate us so much from the rest of the pack is that we can do that and nothing else can.
Return to base.
And it was
Yeah,
intended this
so
way.
like how
was
are
intended.
dogs? Can you demonstrate how dogs would find a way around needing like the things humans need to build and to create things?
Yeah,
How would
because
they
we can
find a way
easily
around
create
that?
things. We can easily
way to
create
hold it.
things. Yeah, there's different. We have people that are
Like
Well,
you can't
no, they
say
have
look at
paws.
scissors and say
Well, no,
that
they
the way
have
to hold their scissors are
paws.
the two circles
Well,
and
yeah,
like they
well,
can't
we
say
have
that's
people
the
that are
end game of
armless.
scissors.
People that are armless are not building hospitals. They're not building buildings. They are disabled. So how can dogs, like they have paws, right? Paws do not clamp around
Dude,
things
hold on,
like
time
a
out, bro.
human hand.
You're going way too meta with this for no reason.
Well, no, you're
point-
like they
Very
could build
little.
hospitals. They can't.
They,
like,
they
what I
would
said
strive.
was
Your example
what
makes
I
no
s- what-
sense.
What I said was in rebuttal to what someone else said, so it's not a standalone comment. But what I was saying is that if any other
Well,
animal
they
followed
don't
our
understand.
same path of developmental evolution, dogs and everything would be doing the same thing. So when he made the comment that like humans are so much better because they created hospitals, okay, if dogs had the same evolutionary developmental path as us, they probably would create dog hospitals too.
Well, they wouldn't be dogs. They would no longer be dogs. you'd be a completely different thing. A
Well, you're
dog
right.
cannot create a
That
hospital.
dog would be
It
the
can create
one
the
claiming what
concept.
it is.
It can create the concept of a hospital, sure, but it cannot build a hospital. So you made the positive claim that if the dog followed the
Okay, this is
same
weird. You're weird.
path
I'm not
as
interested in
us,
this.
I don't.
Oh,
I
you're
don't
like,
think
you're
that's how
weird,
we
you're
call
weird.
dogs dogs. Dogs. That's like a biological term.
Okay,
Right?
if canines had followed the same developmental evolutionary path as hominins,
Yep.
then they would have done the same things because it's the
How
developmental
would they have
thing
done
that
that?
led to where we're at, to the things we do.
We understand
So
it's
they would have
hard to
followed.
picture because, yes, if it was this other
Well,
certain
no, it
way,
just
things
makes
would be completely
no
different.
biological sense. It
I
just makes no
know
biological
it
sense.
would if this hypothetical was being followed back properly.
We've been
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah, I don't know. This hypothetical just like, even though hypotheticals really don't have to make sense, this just doesn't seem biologically
it's always
possible. If you
preferred that
gave a dog,
hypotheticals
if you
make
gave a
sense.
dog consciousness and like the
Dog
same
has consciousness.
evolutionary
Dog
track,
has
Dogs do
the
have
same
consciousness.
evolutionary track as humans, like right where they were
You
intelligent
mean
like
the
us, and
level of
being
consciousness?
like us. Yeah, the level of consciousness. You know what I meant.
They would
They're not
also be
building
looking.
hospitals.
They
They're
would
not
be
building
looking out.
buildings.
Okay, my point is they would be looking out for dogs. His comment was,
Well, they look
is
out for
that
dogs
humans,
now.
bro. He said yes, but in the way that he said that humans are so much better that they build hospitals, I'm 99% certain that if dogs followed our same developmental evolutionary path, they would maybe not have a
The
hospital,
qualification
but
shouldn't
they would
be
have
that,
their
yeah.
they would have their own new creative evolutionary form of helping dogs, just like we have created hospitals. So it's
So you
not
just
special
don't know,
that
you didn't
humans
know how
have
to word
created
your
hospitals.
point. Okay.
It's
Wait, no. He
no,
ordered
I
it
had to
perfect.
reinstate it for you because you're the
Yeah.
fucking retard.
Almost to a certain degree, certain animals know just that. Like they know where the
dogs
people are
do
that would help them. They know where to bring
Yeah.
their like hungry kittens.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
like,
dogs do this. There's animals that do this. It's not that like
Which even
okay,
proves
so
my point
again,
more.
yeah,
Oh
more
my
so.
God.
Yeah, so they're more closer to humans than you think, being sentient. Like there's a true sentience when it comes
Yeah,
to like
it's like
octopuses
dogs.
and like all that. There's a true
Yeah.
sentience.
Like look at dogs like German shepherds, very intelligent dogs. Very smart. They know they can. They're like what's the other dog from?
Like it
We're
doesn't
gonna
make
get
us
rid
the
of
better
conversations
animal.
They're
It does make
escape
us the
artists.
preferred
They're very
animal.
smart.
I don't even understand what the direction
but
of
you
this.
said they could
I know.
build hospitals, which was wrong. That was dumb.
In that hypothetical, they could.
Yeah, I don't know how we
I
can
know
Are they
build
gonna? Are
anything
they
anymore.
growing? Are they growing like human limbs?
So
and,
what
like,
you
hands?
were
No.
picturing is all of a sudden this intelligence popping into a dog's brain here and now when we're talking about
No,
if they
that's not-
evolution like if they went through the stages with it.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm
Canine.
thinking. I'm
Okay,
thinking
then you're
of
not
like
keeping up with the
the
hypothetical.
practicality of this,
Yeah,
and it
you're
makes
in your
no
own
sense.
conversation. You're in your own conversation.
You
made
don't
the
you don't
point
just
that
say
if
the
they had-
hypothetical
if they
doesn't
had the
make
same
sense and
evolutionary
start
track as
running
us.
with your own like that.
No, I'm not running with my own. I'm running with the words he said. The words he said is
You
that
just
dogs can
admitted
build
that you
hospitals.
thought
You're
if
taking my
the
words out of
intelligence
context.
popped into their brain here and now.
How am I taking
Here
your
and
words
now.
out of context?
All right.
Because he just tried to tell you.
I don't know if I should just say it all over.
I
or
don't. I'm not. I've been saying this entire time. If dogs followed our evolutionary tract, this entire time I've been following his hypothetical. His hypothetical just doesn't make sense. Are dogs growing like human limbs and hands and
Their
going
needs
down
would
with
push them
them?
in that direction if they had the
Well, then if
intelligence.
they did, they would no longer be dogs. They'd be a completely different animal.
You might want to call them something else. You're right. They might even be able to speak and tell you what they want to be called. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It just makes no sense.
I
to
don't
apply
even
that to
think
dogs.
like there. Then there's the hypothetical of would this be alongside humans or not? I feel like there could only like could there be two species having this type of intelligence?
I mean, there is. So dolphins are pretty intelligent. They have a lot of gray brain matter.
Yeah. Same with the
very
apes and
intelligent.
such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we
So that's
parallel them with us, but yeah.
Well, they're definitely not as smart as us and can't do the same
definitely
things
like
as
in the
us, but they're
direction
pretty
of
smart.
intelligence.
Yeah, they're pretty smart. I mean, by like animals. I know we're animals, but like by other standards, like of species,
again,
right? Like,
okay, go ahead. Finish this thought real fast. Yeah.
no, that's fine. You go ahead.
I was curious where did this start from a talk of saying that humans are not animals and are just on a different spectrum of living?
Yes.
Okay. And whose thought was that?
what's his name? He left.
Oh, he did leave. All right. So was he saying like we were animals and then we ascended, or never were?
I think his point was that like Jesus said we're special, so we're not animals.
Yeah. I feel it. Well, then again, there was a time I used to think like that.
Same.
So.
100%. And then I realized that we share literally every bodily function, just like the majority of animals that exist.
100.
Enemy
Fucking
UAV
tailbone, man.
We're falling behind. Get moving.
To suggest we're not animals is to suggest we're alien.
That's not a long stretch from what a lot of
It's so
people
weird
believe.
that like we always forget. You could just literally look at the life on our own planet and just how alien it already feels, almost just like fungi
exactly.
and just grasshoppers and just like Jesus mantises and shit, dude. Like we have our own fucking.
Well, what I think is
life,
funny is
dude.
that any science fictional alien idea, it all kind of originates from
Like an
the ideas
insect
that are
almost.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like insect depictions.
I remember when
slimy shit.
I knew for years already about like the deep sea dwellers and things like that, like the danglers. And then my mom saw a picture for the first time of like the one that's hanging the light above its head, like that Nemo fish, yada. And she sees the picture and she's like, "Oh my god, like these are real?" And I'm just like, "Oh my, I thought you were aware of things like this, Mom." And finding out,
Yeah,
that,
it's sci-fi,
yeah.
like science fiction, nearly. Like you just don't believe it.
Hostile UAV in the area.
And I think it was Mark Twain that said reality is far stranger than fiction, and I fucking love that.
Makes me think of who's some of my favorite horror movies, like John Carpenter and the creatures that come out of that mine.
I think what was it?
What is the other
Where
one? The squids and things like that. What are they called again? Like the Lovecraftian horror.
Yeah, Cthulhu and shit.
Yeah. And like it used to, like I remember there was a time I was looking at it and be like, I was looking like squids and these octopuses. It makes no sense to me. And then like now that I've like opened up my mind to a few things, I'm like, oh, because of how sentient. Like if there was something to have a few more 1,000 years or so to continue to evolutionize, like
like Baldur's Gate. Have you ever seen Baldur's Gate?
Yeah, 100.
Like how the aliens
more
are like
realistic than you
Cthulhu
think
people.
it would be. Like it's not. Yeah, it's not stretching far just out of nowhere. It's like it's a good thought of why it would be. What are they called again? Like octopus and squids and all that.
Okay, what about the idea? Do you think that humans can have original thoughts anymore?
Original
Like, is
thoughts,
there-
like a thought
yeah,
that's
there's
never
a-
been had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Just because like there's certain things that we are still inventing that's breaking certain barriers of concepts, and like what is it? Like we're still breaking certain concepts of how time is conceived. And I think once we if we find more answers from here, there'll be original thought to be had.
Do you think the imagination is infinite or finite?
I'd say potential to be infinite, finite for many.
Like collectively infinite or like individually?
Like individually. I think if somebody like somehow like broke their mind with certain drugs and like all of a sudden there's certain actually, you know what, I don't know, because there are certain thoughts I feel like it's just not even possible to have until you like break your mind a little bit. That's how I look at, yeah, exactly. That's how I look at it, as breaking your mind. Like it's like people say like, oh, it leads to something that's true, and I'm like, it's your brain being haywired on a bunch of things.
Well, it's more like being rewired.
Yeah, exactly. And so awesome shit, though, but
1 minute.
it's like I'm like having that playing COD.
No, the same. I'm playing World of Warcraft right now.
Right on.
My character's name is Psilocybin.
Love it.
Friendly SAE on the way.
Yeah, sure. I believe the imagination could be vast enough in certain situations, but like I said, most finite.
Friendly Overwatch helo inbound. 30
But
seconds
also,
remaining.
again, with finding ways to conceive and find out that like the rules of physics and everything as we're still going, like there's still the original thoughts and new imaginations. So like there's certain things that can't even be imagined yet.
Yep.
10 seconds remaining. Friendly mosquito active.
Come on, guy, peek your head. What the fuck?
Dude, I fucking love using the longbow. It's my favorite gun.
Damn.
Mission compromised. We've failed.
Oh shit. I don't know how that's possible. 125 likes, damn. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button. Follow if you'd like. Whoop, whoop. Don't forget to talk in the chat too. You can talk to each other. Yeah, so I'm kind of like just mainly hanging to hear whatever conversations happening around me. So feel
Same.
free, guys. You guys hear that shit about Trump being shot at?
No?
Yeah, dude, at his rally today. Fucking somebody
No way.
died and he got grazed.
What?
I know it sounds crazy, right? This shit went down.
I mean, it's not really like we expected this, I guess.
It was more like a half thought was like, I'm surprised it took this, like, it was this long. I thought it would have happened last election, but it happened. And he got some blood on his face.
Man, I don't exactly know what kind of bed I
He's
got.
even more of a badass
that
now.
motherfucker works wonders, bro. Even though my back is fucked up, that stuff is comfortable. It's stiff at first.
Dude, my back is so fucked up right now.
But
What are you doing?
Like once you
wrong
lay
shit.
on
I was
it,
like,
you're like, wow.
yo, what are you putting on your back? My back is fucked up.
And it is. That motherfucker's whoa. I'm gonna try to run this.
Yes. Give me that.
Okay, come on now.
Got a new cape.
Dude, I can't even get a kill. They're spawning right in front of these dudes.
Secure the lead. Friendly UAV on station.
No, I'm talking about like the guys talking and all that. Yeah. Thank you, honey.
What does divinity exist as?
Clarify your question.
You're
You're not
saying.
being clear enough.
So you mentioned divinity. I'm just trying to figure out, like, can you quantify divinity in terms of something that is existing?
Do you Well, yes, naturally, if I believe that there is some sort of divinity, it would exist.
What does it exist as?
Divinity.
What?
What are you trying to measure here? There's no God particle that, like,
What
you go,
is
here are the
divinity?
matter that God is made out of. If you can put God's skin cells into a petri dish, I think we would all be having a different discussion right now, but that's not necessarily the case.
How can we know that the concept of God and divinity weren't simply fabricated? What can we look at to realize that there's truth to it?
Spiritual attainment. Just any sort of spiritual reflection. Like, whatever
I've
benefits
done
are gained there and are...
Wait, I've done spiritual practices, and none of them require, or I mean, there are some that do require God, but not all of them require, like, believing there's a supreme creator or supreme being. You know that, right? It's not inherent
Of course I
to
do.
spirituality.
Of course I do. Which is my thing. When I'm saying divinity, that's not necessarily, like, for instance, like, tell me the spiritual path that you walked, and then we would engage from that point, so that I can better understand where you're coming from.
Well, personally, I've done Eastern Chinese breathing technique practices, which are supposed to be helpful for drawing in, like, energy from around you into your meridian system. And personally, I've had experiences that are not normal to average standards that we report. But beyond that, the experiences people have where they believe God is existing, those come from a preconceived belief that they hold already. And so before they go into any meditation, those people are already believing that God is real. And then what happens is that if they do have an experience, they simply paint it as proving God. It doesn't mean it was God.
But the same thing could be thrown at you. How do you know you're gathering in energy if there's no energy to gather in?
Well, I don't want to go too deep into that, but...
Well, of course you don't, because that sort of throws the baby out with the bathwater at this point, because what you're doing is a recontextualization of your point.
No, because that's independent of the concept of God.
No,
So
it's
in order
not,
to
because
keep
you're
on-
still talking about something spiritual. If you're gathering energy by a method of meditation, and this is giving you some sort of spiritual experience, you're still dealing with something spiritual. What I would agree with you on is that from that point alone, give me a second. What I would agree with you on is that from that point alone, you couldn't make the leap towards God or not God. Right? So, like, at that point, it's like now you got to contextualize and reason your spiritual experience. What is the confines of that? What is the nature of the spirit realm in which you're interacting with? I'm not saying that meditation proves God. I'm saying the type of spiritual interaction indicates something spiritual. Now, personally, I believe in a God because I through a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things that lead me to believe in a supreme architect. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm saying you're wrong by fiat. That's not what's happening.
What you said was that the way we can know God and divinity isn't fabricated, it's through a spiritual experience.
Yes, because nature, so how do you know there's energy? Through spiritual experience.
Yeah, but how does any spiritual experience indicate some God?
It depends on the nature of that. What is it? Is it a vision?
It
Are
could
you
be a
speaking
whole
to an
different
entity?
realm. It wouldn't like
prayer.
it'd be more likely a different realm than a god.
Yeah, where does
God inhabit that realm, right?
You could make that claim again, but it could just be a whole different realm.
Wait.
But what if my experience leads me to believe that there is a God? At which
But
way do
you're
you
calling
disprove that
so
my belief is incorrect?
Say you have something moving around, like, you know, you're just like, all right, something's moving on your desk, and you're like, all right, I'm going to attribute that to, say, ghost or God, kind of a thing. Like, I don't, like, if there was a supernatural realm, and like you could be having these experiences, these feelings, and it could just be because of, you know, say, ghost or another realm, but you're going to be like, I'm just going to call it my God that I found at my street.
I see what you're saying, but to me that wait real quick, Boop, and then I'll give it over to you. My thing is that would be seen as like an immature mediumship, like this idea that like, oh, something moves on my desk, there it is. If anybody comes
that's
to
me
God
going
through
to
just a small
extremes. It's
interaction like that
whatever
would
you
be
replace
ridiculous.
it with, i.e., your spiritual experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all. Like, it could be anything. Like you say, you feel this or that, and like It could be a whole different thing before being straight to the ultimate creator. It could be something else
Painting
the
it
ultimate
before you
creator
look at
made
what it
it.
indicates.
Exactly.
You're painting it as God before you even
Exactly.
try to see
Exactly.
what it truly is.
Like it could
No,
be.
now
It
you're
could be
painting me in a light that you
no,
can't substantiate.
no, I'm saying you can't substantiate it.
No,
I'm
I was
saying
talking
even
to
if
Boop, not you,
or-
LA Hart.
Oh no one. Yeah.
No,
But-
you're good, Ellie, and I understand what you're saying. My point here is that through my experience, and I'm not talking about just small things. Me talking to divinity, praying, being in the stillness,
Now, that's the
actually
other
putting
thing,
myself into
though.
scripture. These are things that lead me to believe in God.
But
And
I would expect different results for each different religion that are because they all do same things, same amount of faith. They all, people that would die for it, people that would do anything, they'd live for it.
People that would lie for it.
Yeah, and then so like I believe like and there's no data showing that one over the other is showing results. So that's all I'm asking. Which you're calling the results being the experiences, but we're still not having that like one over the other when it comes to vastly opposite spectrums of gods being praised and worshipped.
see, and this is where I would have to throw a curveball in here, which is that I believe that all religions to a degree are true and are trying to grasp.
Well, that's
something
what I was saying.
inherently
Again,
ineffable.
there are gods that are on so far of the spectrums. There is no reason to think that, like, it's the same rate of chance that's happening when you're praying to this god on this side of the spectrum of, say God, and this side of the spectrum, let's just say, literally worshiping Satan or something like that, or like or just Cthulhu. And their prayers are being answered at the same rate. Their experiences are the exact same experiences. And so, like, anyone takes their drug, they see their God.
I mean, if you paint anything in a ridiculous light and go to extremes, it's going to make anything seem ridiculous. But that's
Scientology is
not necessarily
ridiculous,
a thing.
and look at people
Of course, Scientology is ridiculous.
Yeah, and they're gung ho, and there are people that they tell you how much they believe in it. They literally pay to they are so far in.
Oh yeah, no, people like you can be brainwashed. No one's disagreeing that brainwashing is not a thing.
The main distinction we have to realize here is that when they imagined the belief itself, they didn't look at anything in reality to conceive of the idea. They
Yeah, it was the
simply
other way
made
around,
the idea.
yeah.
They
The
simply
story
made
put
the
the reality.
idea up to then represent reality as it. Yeah, and so they basically just fabricated it with no relation to anything that's real. And then they try to say that everything that is real,
Like the literal
is from
science
it.
fiction writer. Like, come on.
Oh, okay. I think you, LA Hart, and Boop are talking about two different specific things. LA Hart's talking about Scientology. Boop, I think, is talking about just God belief in general. In which case, LA Hart. I mean, yeah, a science fiction writer. Yeah, no doubt. Like, I agree on Scientology.
New thought I've had
But
recently when it comes to, like, say, playing with Alchem's Razor and just saying, if there is a god, what kind of god would it be and all that? Wouldn't you say, because if you were to call a god a prime mover, and also I realize this new definition would also say you could call a god, but it would remove the all-knowing from his definition or their definition, because I think, wouldn't it be much more likely if there being a prime mover in the past and just saying it just didn't continue to exist and knows nothing of said Earth or anything about us or this timeline?
There's no reason to say.
Yeah, there's no reason to think
later.
that the prime mover of all of this had to be eternal or is eternal.
I mean, it's not. I mean, like, look, if something is big enough to create the universe, it's going to be fucking eternal. All right, like that doesn't make any sense.
I wanted to chip in and say that I think religion is just man's understanding of what God is, how he interacts with us.
Well, and that's where it came into the thing where, like, quantum fields of, something becoming something out of the smallest of nothings and having a reaction that makes an explosion or just expansion.
But I think religion comes from a few things, but I think one of the primary reasons people believe in religion is, I have a theory that people never really grow up. The moment you're born, the only real thing that you ever do is add some degree of complexity, and you begin to rationalize your decisions, all right? Like, for example, if you dig into childhood psychology, you find out that the reason like babies below 2 years, especially below 1 year, they only react emotionally, right? It's not that they know yes or no. All they remember is experience A had a bad experience, experience B was good experience, and they react purely emotionally, have purely emotional memory. They don't actually remember. That's why you don't remember anything until you're 3 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everything is purely emotions based. I would argue that same exact thing, and we actually have evidence of this, happens in adults. All right, most adults react wildly emotionally, and then the frontal lobe basically justifies whatever decision their limbic system decided. And some
I would have that's humanity in general. Yeah, like just not
well,
escaping that.
and that's and then only until you're, for lack of a better term, enlightened, I guess, but self-aware and self-actualizing can you escape that cycle. And even then, it's fucking difficult. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So my theory is when it comes to God, like as a child, it's that you look up at parents, right? They basically, especially with children, you really see this. They basically worship you, right? From the moment they lay eyes on you, they basically worship you. You make them feel safe. You make them feel happy. No matter what, they're gonna run to you. They're gonna feel safe. Yada yada. They stare straight up at you when they're in the crib. So on and so forth. I think this is extrapolated by most people to a God being, because I think we all want to return to that state where we don't have anything to worry about, right? And something is taking care of us, and we don't have to actually do anything. And I think that, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that's the way most people are, though, and that's how they think of God. They literally describe God as an all-loving father or mother or whatever else, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So my argument here is that a lot of the perception of God just comes from this deep subconscious desire to be a small child again.
Or to have a maternal relationship.
That's how ingrained it is easily from the get-go. Why it's still.
Do you think Christians behave that way when someone becomes a Christian?
100%. That's how I felt. Yeah. That's what I strived from it.
Explain the Crusades. Do you think the Crusaders?
Wait a minute. What does that have to do with the Crusades? I don't know.
When you think of, I think
not the people, the Christians being the gods going out, the father figure.
I think when you commit to God, you're not a helpless baby, though. In a sense, it's like he makes you.
You literally are. Like the argument is,
you're literally reborn.
Before and after, you're reborn.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, very childlike.
Fair enough, but Christians don't. I guess I see where you're coming from. But when you think of like a devout Christian man, he tends to be very family oriented.
Hey, let's try to keep it one at a time.
He's a leader. I think
that's literally just the radio in the background. I wasn't interrupting him.
Oh, bro, I just saved your back. Oh, sorry, wrong pad.
It's just the radio in the background. I wasn't interrupting him, but whoever said that call, I was going to miss the last part of what he said. What did you say that last part?
I was going to say is when someone becomes a Christian, at least from my own experience, I became a lot more brave, and I noticed a lot of Christian men are brave, and there isn't necessarily something baby-like about that. I guess it's submitting to the
joking.
No, I'm not.
Kids are plenty brave, dude. In fact, I would argue not only are children oftentimes plenty brave, but they have so much faith in their parents, they often do really dumb shit because they trust their parents are going to take care of them, okay? And yeah, very much fearless. And I would argue that religion gives people almost the same damn thing, fearlessness in the face of almost absolute death, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes in the face of absolute death. So I would say it's the same damn thing over again. I think a lot of our idealization of God is just analyzing ourselves. If we want to feel safe again.
I originally just didn't comprehend what you said correctly the first time. I think now I understand.
The way that people talk about God is a lot of the way that children see their parents. I think we want to feel that again. I don't blame people for wanting to feel that again. I look at the world right now, I want to curl up, be a kid again, shit, not have to worry about nothing. Man.
Is that what it means to be a Christian? As you become Christian, you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. Well, literally, it's just God has all things planned.
I don't think so, man. I think literally a huge responsibility on the shoulder because if you're trying to be like Jesus Christ, what does that mean?
Doesn't it say that? Don't you believe that God has everything planned, beginning to end? Nothing will happen without His will.
Not done yet.
No.
I think we all have free will.
Pretty sure it says that in the Bible that God knows all things.
Well, Space Apache, to be fair, it also says that God can stay His hand based on human voice and interaction.
That He doesn't know the future, does He?
I never claimed He did.
Well, then that would be contradictory in the Bible.
I would say it's
I'm
more
not a follower
likely
of the
if-
Bible. I'm a
yeah.
follower of the Essenes.
That's
Alright, the
What
issue,
about-
okay, we're just guys arguing Christianity right now, dude. Like, I'm just saying, I think a lot
That
of
wasn't
our
what the
understanding is
conversation
wrong.
was with me and Boop, was it?
Then why are you trying to connect it to what I was saying?
Because the point here is that like this idea of like there's these small aspects that you can nitpick. Yeah, sure.
Small
Fuck,
aspects.
no one has. Yeah, there are small aspects because overall, what is the thing that people are trying to achieve, especially with Christianity?
For God.
Be like Christ.
In my opinion.
Be like Christ.
No, just to be like Christ, and Christ died on the cross for our sins. He made
No, it's because you want to live forever.
To
You just
suffer
wanna-
for
you wanna
mankind.
preserve- You want to
Yes.
live. That's all it is.
Yes,
It's a desire to live.
you're trying to enact God's will to save and preserve humanity. This is what it means to be Christian, and that's a huge burden on your shoulder.
It's the carrying of the sacred flame.
The sacred flame.
Right? You're not being a baby.
The sacred flame. Sounds like an anime.
May I jump in on this? I feel like I kind of get
Please
the
do.
argument.
Sure.
So to me, I feel like there's a very important distinction between what a doctrine urges its majority followers to do and what they actually do. And none of us can know personally. There's no statistics that prove. We have our anecdotal experiences, but what we do know is that people might claim to want to do a thing or try to do a thing. It doesn't mean they succeed or do it thoroughly and fully. And we might have idealized versions of what we'd like the people who believe in the same things we do to do. It doesn't mean that they do that thing. So I think psychologically it makes sense that a lot of people do seek a higher power or some kind of organized belief to mentally handle a lot of the other things
And a
that
lot of
is
it's
human
that family
existence.
that surrounds with it too, like the gathering for a lot of people. Like, I wish there were other reasons that we gathered every week. Like, I wish I had some gaming, like weekly
There's
meetup. That would help
many
me out mentally.
cultural and there's many cultural, psychological, and social reasons that people choose to follow the religion they follow. But regardless of those reasons, all we can do is really,
We're fresh out
we
of
can assume
generations
that
that
it's
didn't think
for
for themselves. Like, last few generations have been developed in religion.
no, religion has been around for as long as people have been.
Exactly,
And
but
it's
the breakthroughs
almost
that have been
always
happening the past
been-
2 generations have been what's breaking God lately.
No,
You
I would
know,
say that
throughout
that's not
history, we've
accurate.
done this. Throughout history, man has abandoned God, suffered for it, and returned to Him. This is we're gonna eventually
Multiple
become very
I would say
pious,
that's also not historically accurate.
according to the Bible.
What
The
was the
world is less
Enlightenment?
religious than it's ever been.
Much.
I would
much
also
less.
say that's
it is.
very untrue.
No, atheism's rising and people are dropping out of.
Yes, it is, and it's also providing no one to wait. Real quick. Atheism is on the rise, but the thing is, it's also providing nothing for people to latch onto, and so they're retreating backwards.
That's not
As
true.
society
It is.
begins
It's
to become
look
more
at
difficult-
Science
Ali
provides
and all
lots
that.
of answers.
Like it's
Science provides answers.
Can we
Go.
find
what
statistics?
does atheism? Wait, no, hold on, real quick. I'm not saying that science doesn't provide answers. I'm not putting a dichotomy there. I'm saying what does atheism provide? Atheism provides a vacuum and nothing else.
Wow,
That's
really?
not true.
Was that a
Can
claim? We
exist
can go
without
off on that
religion to
one.
cope.
Why do
Yeah,
you
that's a
think
good one.
Islam is on the rise?
Wait, are you
We're
suggesting
dumb.
Importing
that
millions of
without-
Muslims.
So the idea
Yeah,
to suggest
Rome
that
time.
people struggle to have something to cling on to or to ground themselves without religion makes no sense, because religion in itself is its own kind of philosophy, and there are plenty of non-religious philosophies for people to cling on to and still be atheists. That's just an untrue statement.
No, that's not what I said, though. Let me clarify what I'm saying. I'm saying that like when people are talking about like especially new atheism stuff, and I think we can all agree that that thing's going downhill. When we have
No, we
atheist
can't.
stuff, like there are a lot of good reasons to be an atheist. There are a lot of good reasons to be a theist. But the reason that atheism is like seemingly providing something is that everybody's like, well, look, we've been lied to. So the people will just remove themselves of religion. But then people start realizing, hey, we actually really need that narrative. We really need that higher thing. And so they go back to it. That's why Islam is on the rise, is because we've been so thoroughly
I got your graph
disillusioned
right
of
here.
Christianity.
No, you're. I think
The
Islam is on the rise because they keep having kids, and you can't leave the faith without getting your head put on a spike. That's why
No, I'm
Islam
talking
is on
about
the rise.
converts. I'm talking about like conversions.
I don't buy
Oh,
that
like
shit, man.
atheist
Who's
reverts
converted?
to
The only people that convert to Islam are angry people who are young and they're like looking for violence, and that's how they
That's
get
what a
around.
Christian would
That's
say.
not
I don't think
true.
so. I
That's
don't
what
think
a
that's
Christian
true at
would
all.
say.
Making stereotypes about a religion is you can
That's
just
what's
say
happening all over
things like,
Europe.
oh, it's because, but you don't know that. You're assuming, like, you have no proof of that. Why do you like to say so many things without any backing?
Still got that one
It
guy
doesn't
that
make any
can't
sense.
Here,
take
look
the
at chat.
It's
stairs
productive.
down by the other car
like,
escalator.
So I got the U.S.
or
graph
something
It would help
of
your claim,
religions going, and I got a
Yeah,
link in the
that's clear,
background if you
boys.
need it. But that's atheism literally coming up and meeting where organized religion and non-religious people are, or non-practicing. So with how that, you know, if you read the graphs where the graphs are going,
No, I
it's
believe you.
gonna
I was
cross.
referring to prop mystics whenever you said that people convert to Islam because they're just angry
Can I have
young
a link
people.
to this graph?
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
Also, thank you for the source.
People
Yeah,
who
I
have
would.
convert
I
to
would.
Christianity, and there are people who convert to Christianity and they treat their schizophrenia. You know, it treats their drug addiction, it treats their narcissism. It fixes all these different things.
If you can provide some kind of source for that, I'll believe you. But it's like you can just say whatever you want. I've met a lot of people.
Well, it's when
people.
people do this. How about when like my parents come to me or anybody else and they say, "Well, if you weren't in this, like, if you didn't believe in God, like that means you're free to go rape somebody and go kill somebody," and then like as if like
Yeah,
is that
that
what's
idea-
holding you
it's a
back?
similar
Religion is
idea.
holding you back from things like that. Is that that is?
People can have an individual moral code outside of religion. Like that's as she
Religion is
said.
just an understanding of God. It's just like we're trying to understand who God is and how He interacts with us. That's right. That's what it is.
For some people,
And I
that's
think
not relevant to their lives.
Christianity got it down on to a T. That's
Well,
why it is.
hey, I was a Christian up till I was 27 and 35, going on 35 now. But I was in a Christian household all the way to 27, became more agnostic than atheist at a point, and now I'm just atheist agnostic.
I would argue that I'm probably more moral than most religious people I know and act with more alignments of Christian values than most Christians do.
Me too.
At least
Well, at one point.
You know, I'd warn you about saying that you're more moral than other people because it could stem from pride that you're saying that.
it's not pride, it's
right?
just like I know a lot of very heavily religious people in my life, and it's never seemed to be a determining factor in whether or not they're good people. I've met a lot of good religious people, but it's rarely ever from just religion that makes those people
it depends
good.
when you find the ones that defend the Bible to the teeth and to the T, because it's reading the Bible that like really broke me and got me out of it, or at least like put in perspective. If this was the God, it's not the God I'd want to be worshiping.
Studying anything heavily biblical and like going through every passage, most of the time people who go to school to like study religion, especially the Bible and things like that, and they spend years and years going over it and many different times, end up either not believing in Christianity anymore or changing their faith just because it's something that's been edited and handled by human beings for centuries on centuries, and it's got a lot of bad shit in it. Following it to the T is always the worst. Most of the Christians that I know are pretty moderate in the sense that they believe in the good values that it teaches, but it can also recognize
my parents raised me by turning the blind eye too. Yes.
But yeah, that's just not.
I want to apologize real quick, Fascist, real quick. I want to apologize to LA Hard because I realized that I'm working off an outdated study. So thank you for providing the new one. That
Yeah, 100. Got you.
I was just gonna say that if the faith's been around for 2,000 years, how do you think you can keep up alive?
I'm sorry, your audio quality is listening. Can you say it again?
Fuck.
Nah, you good, bro.
I was saying that this faith has been around for a little over 2,000 years now. How has mankind kept it up for so long, right? If there's no ounce of truth to it, how is it still here? We can't
like
even
a Homelander voice too,
in
so
society
it's
for
pretty
over a
hilarious
year
to
or
me.
two, right? Like this shit
Yeah, we
comes
can.
out. We found.
I can explain how it's still
Like
How
that
can
that
people feel
would be
that
what
way that?
Homelander would do.
The
Because,
reason is
oh
that when they
shit.
created the belief of God, they didn't base it in terms of anything that's real. They based it in terms of having people accept it's real with no indication. And so when people do accept it, there's nothing to fall back on and be like, oh yeah, this is why it's real. They just accept it's real because they believe it's real.
I disagree,
Like
but
that, and God bless them because when you're so skeptical about it, you're actually, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm speaking from my personal experience because I was a very skeptical person before I became Christian. Even while a Christian, I'm still very skeptical. How is it so that despite my skepticism, my willingness to want to question it, it still has won me over because it clearly resonates some ounce of truth within our existence. If there's without the truth,
it certainly probably resonates with a lot of people, but it also doesn't, and it's because it provides comfort. If you believe in something like faith, we have faith every day. We have faith that something will work out in our favor, or that something will go our way, or that we'll have a good day. We cannot know a lot of things to be true, but if you're optimistic, or if you have hope, or if you have faith in small ways, that's a great example. It's not necessarily believing in a lie, it's just hoping for the best in something that brings you comfort, and they do that in a very big way with religion, because technically you can't prove that God doesn't exist, you can't prove that he does.
I
It's
have
something
coincidences in my life that are like off the spectrum to the point where it's more like this is the universe talking to me or something like that, and I can't, I can't put it towards anything. But I know, right?
The whole time.
But
When I asked you if you could give me anything in existence that indicates God wasn't fabricated, the only thing you could provide is that we're able to have a spiritual experience that you then paint as proof of God. But when asked further to provide how the spiritual experience indicates God, you couldn't. You just said that spiritual experience isn't an indication of God. So what I need to know is what.
Boop, real quick. Are you talking to me? Because if you're going to misrepresent me, I'm just going to restate myself.
I think she was talking with me at that point.
No.
No. Oh.
No, it wasn't. It was. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say this real quick. No, spiritual experiences to me are an indicator of God, and the reason I believe in God is because of the nature of my spiritual experiences. Because I believe I have interacted with the divine.
Oh, okay. I hear you on the nature of your
because of the nature of my experience. Because I'm interacting with the divine, angels, speaking to angels, speaking. God,
which part
I
of
don't
it
have to
indicates
you physically
God?
right now. We're talking about this over a Discord. Come on, but like we're talking about how does this indicate something for me? I wasn't responding to you, Boop. This is why one person needs to talk at a time. Go ahead and ask your question again because I feel like you were trying to ask something and I didn't hear it.
So what is it about the experience that indicates it?
So I was speaking to an angel who claimed to be a messenger of God.
Damn.
How do you know
Lucky
it's
you.
not just some non-corporeal entity?
Or some,
I trust in the angel.
I would say, what if it's something in disguise as
you trust
angel?
in the apparition.
I felt a conviction in my spirit that told me it was trustworthy.
What if it just induced that conviction into you and manipulated your feelings? And
you can try to interpret the experience you didn't have, but that's not going to help this.
Yeah, but how do you know that the feeling you had wasn't induced into you?
I mean, I imagine it was induced to me by God.
I guess what the other thing we can do is what are other things that people see?
To me, when we imagine that a personal spiritual experience allows us to imagine that existence itself was created by a supreme being, those two events are irrelevant. In order to look at the existence or the beginning of existence, we have to analyze things that are actually existing. We can't just have some spiritual experience and then tell ourselves that existence is this way.
And the next question would be, why you?
Even indicates it.
My question here would be, why do you feel the need to gatekeep my experience, especially when you're talking about something you can't demonstrate either in the same regard?
It's because the experience isn't an indicator of a supreme being creating all existence.
So you believe you're sucking in energy through meditation. How can you prove that physically?
Yeah, they're both silly.
The issue is
no,
like
because we're both interacting with some spiritual realm
don't
that's
have
not
to,
necessarily scientifically testable.
At the end of the day, everybody's
what
going to
you're
have subjective. Can I offer something here, Boop? Like everybody's going to have subjective experiences at the end of the day. Boop's not wrong. Like you need to analyze your position and your beliefs and deal with them,
Yeah.
right? And don't take them as like
Both.
solid truth, all right? You can definitely be fucking wrong. I've had some weird experiences too. For example, I think reincarnation is a real thing. However, I also have some real life cases that could reference this. For example, the case of Dorothy Eady, which is demonstrably an anomaly that nobody's been able to solve yet that would indicate reincarnation. But on the other hand, like I have to take my experiences at face value. Like, look, I could just be fucking crazy. You know what I mean? The experience I had with a non-human entity or a non-physical entity, that could be just me being fucking nuts, right? We have to be careful and evaluate them, you know, as objectively as we can, and not get too wrapped up in them. But like you said, like she also believes stuff that's consistent as well, and she should probably acknowledge that. Be like, yo, I don't know what's going on here either. Like it might be right, it
Space
might be
Apache.
wrong, but it does benefit me. So.
Yep. Sorry, Space Apache. My point of contention here is that, like, first of all, yes, of course, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I could be wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say that I can't be wrong, but I do believe that I'm right. But at the same time, I'm not telling Boop that her experience didn't happen and that, like, why should she interpret her experience to be way different than my own.
That's like saying, like, hey, if I don't attack yours, like, you know, what you believe, don't
No,
attack
that's
what I
not what I'm
believe.
saying, and you know that. No. See, because we could both talk about, like, well, I think this is right, but, like, what we're talking about right here is a meditative experience, a spiritual experience, which you don't even necessarily believe in.
Okay,
but Boop clearly
then we
does,
should have
and
gotten
I
into more
clearly do.
questions. Like, if you're saying it was in a meditative state, was it on drugs?
No. And I've also had some that haven't even been in a meditative
If it was
state.
on
Just
drugs, would that even be bad?
well, I mean, psychedelics could possibly induce something good. So, like, I don't necessarily think that's
good
not bad.
feelings for sure.
No, more than that, it could open yourself up to spiritual experiences because it loosens your.
It would be called to
imagination.
me, yeah. That's
No proof of
I
that.
could call that a dream, but
I mean,
like
it doesn't matter
just,
what you think. 'Cause
it's
that's
just
how
it's
it
literally it's like it's is what it is. Like you're like acid and things like this. You are tripping your brain out, and you're going to conceive and the most weirdest things because it's your brain tripping out on drugs, like. It's literally like attaching all the
what if you see
haywires.
something that others?
I think it's more what you bring to it.
Something that others have seen. No, there's some people that do DMT and they see the same thing as other people who've done DMT.
Exactly.
I would
Right,
actually
but
hate-
hold on. Well, if we're going to talk about anecdotes,
yeah.
I've done quite a bit of mushrooms and have never had the experience with a god. Now, let me say, I was raised as a Christian. My dad was a pastor until I was 22 years old for the entirety of my young life. And I did genuinely believe in a God. I did believe that I had a relationship with God, and I believed in Jesus, and I believed in the Bible, and XYZ. I no longer do anymore, and it was after I stopped believing that I had the experiences on mushrooms, and I had zero experiences of gods or spirits or anything. I had a lot of physical internal reflection, and to suggest that some people do have these experiences, but I don't, it's the better question, because if we're going to just say people have supernatural spiritual experiences when they do psychedelics, well, why the hell am I not?
To answer that, wait,
Well,
real
primarily,
quick,
hold on,
Cassius,
there's an answer to that
real
that
quick,
isn't
real
spiritual.
quick. Please, real quick.
Even though I'm predisposed to God and all those ideas.
Wait, no, boss PvP. I think it's what you bring to the experience and what you're taking. If you're sitting there and you're trying to, by the way,
Yeah,
I
definitely
didn't
what you
have my
bring to it.
experiences through this, but I'm saying if you sit here and you're like, I am trying to meditate, you're putting yourself in a religious state of mind. You're going to have a religious experience most easily.
I've
probably.
always had a
explanation
religious
for
state of
that
mind.
would be
Even
it's-
though I'm not a religious
Yeah.
person anymore, I still have all of the doctrine engraved in my brain, and I understand exactly what God would expect of me.
Just
and
like,
the things God expects.
dreaming wouldn't be the same every time.
You're
There's a very simple answer to that question. Jesus fucking Christ, people. It's not spiritual, it's chemical. Everybody
Yeah.
reacts to drugs
Boom.
differently.
Your brain
God
is tripping.
damn. Really?
When people do things like DMT, one of the reasons like they see like faces or beings is because our brain itself is designed to recognize these
Patterns.
shapes. Yeah, and so like when someone's like high on the drug and their brain is like more active than usual, it can easily like pick out faces
Wallpaper.
in like nothing just because the mind is just like it's almost like creating its own impulses in a way. instead of needing to
I wanna-
fully perceive it.
We don't really
I wanna
understand
ask
all of
PvP
DMT's effects on the
about
brain.
this
We don't understand DMT, all
Sorry,
of
I made
DMT's
that
effects on the brain.
conversation turn. Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is we're trying to apply spiritual bullshit, basically, to real chemical reactions, like neuroscience, essentially. And it's just it's shit, y'all. Like, don't do that. Look, everybody's gonna have a different experience with different drugs. Everybody reacts differently. People even pick up addictions at different rates because they have different psychological conditions. Like, not everything is goddamn spiritual. What was it? Fucking
Can't get addicted to shrooms.
I would wait, real quick, Space Batcher. I would absolutely disagree with you on a part of this, which would be you are assuming that the chemical process is all that there is in the experience, and I vehemently disagree with that. I think that there is a spiritual component.
Show me evidence of something else, and then we can talk about it. Okay? Till then, it's chemical.
I mean, you can examine the code
How do you
by
know
moving the
chemical isn't the
person, but when
spiritual
you
thing
put the
itself?
person back in the code, it makes things make sense, especially from a
What?
spiritual perspective.
But was what?
Like, I don't give a fuck about your spiritual perspective unless it can give me some results. Okay? Until then, I'm going to go based on what I do know.
I mean, that's your prerogative, not mine.
Well, yeah, that's what
It's
that's
a
what
good
advances
base
the
of
world.
prerogative.
Okay?
I mean,
To know,
yeah,
it's
if that's
a,
where you're coming from.
Space
with the
travel,
imaginary
and
from the
medical
real.
technology and a definite lifespan. It's not your spiritual beliefs. Okay? The science did this.
I
I
mean,
question a lot
science
of
doesn't
chemical-
do anything. Science is an explanation.
Science is a methodological tool.
And it's a methodological tool that allows us to develop things called technology, okay?
Yes,
Like, look,
but
I
science is
question
not
plenty of
technology.
science.
Technology is a byproduct of science.
Oh my God, Jesus fucking Christ. Yes. Everybody understands that. The issue
Well, if you want to be
is that, look,
pedantic, I can be pedantic too.
look, at the end of the day, we have knowledge, all right? And I question a lot of scientific pursuits and scientific findings. I do. I don't really like. I'm not a consensus hugger. Yada yada. I do think there are such things as non-physical beings. I do think that there are non-humans on this planet, intelligent non-humans. I think that there's a lot of weird shit going on. All right. That being said, like, we need some actual evidence. Like, even though I believe in UAP and aliens, for example, if you want to call them aliens, I call them non-human intelligences, whatever. The point is, we actually have evidence of that, right? And we can evaluate said evidence. I'm not going to take an imaginary statement like, "Oh, there must be a spiritual element," with absolutely zero evidence of a spiritual element.
Why do you believe there's non-corporeal beings?
Why do I believe there's non-corporeal beings? For a
Water on
variety of
other
reasons.
planets.
Life
Non-corporeal
on other
beings,
planets.
well, he's asking about non-physical beings. The reason I think they're non-physical beings is because I had a very personal experience, and as a result of that experience, I thought I was crazy. So I got multiple psychological evaluations. All right, all those psychological evaluations turned out to show that I'm not insane. And on top of that, we have very limited evidence of this, but we have consistent issues of connections with non-physical entities, or what we perceive as non-physical entities, all throughout history. Now, there's not enough evidence for me to really draw conclusions about anything other than there may possibly exist non-physical beings, right? But I don't have any proof or strong evidence of non-physical beings yet. But I do think it's a possibility.
Okay, so you think there's a possibility, and you believe that you've had some experience that could indicate in
reality.
Okay, yeah. So my point is,
without
sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you. Go on.
There's two minds here, right? There's what I personally believe, and there's what I use to operate in the world, right? What I personally believe is there are non-physical entities here. With the methodology that I use to operate in the world assumes there is not. Okay, because I have no strong evidence for it. Do you understand the difference? You can be of two minds on a topic.
Yes, absolutely. Jung talks about as having a type A, was it a type 1 and type 2 personality, which is one is your society-minded aspect of yourself, and two is the part that is the more spiritual, that is the more personal. So you have a personal belief. The problem is I don't hide my personal belief.
Not spiritual. You conflated spiritual with personal.
Yes, I didn't intend to do that, which is why I corrected and said personal.
Okay.
But the point is that your personal beliefs, you don't have to divorce that from the reality in which you live in, because you are living that reality personally.
Real quick. I'll be back in like a few minutes.
So the point is that when you talk about this, you're like, well, I personally believe in that, but I'm not going to go around talking about it. And I think that's a nonsensical thing. If you believe it, just say it.
Yeah, but then you're going to get challenged with how rational is your viewpoint.
I don't care.
I mean, you should.
No, I really shouldn't, because I think if you want to sit around and just, I guess, conform to whatever anybody else says should be the mode of living, I guess you're not really living yourself at all.
It's only conforming because the consensus is, and the consensus is based off of science evidentiary facts.
Where is the consensus that there is no spiritual realm?
Ask anyone in physics.
There was a consensus that there was no spiritual realm. There were no theists who happen to be scientists.
Well, obviously they're biased.
Yeah, of course. Suddenly bias comes into it when it's somebody who happens to hold a belief on something.
Yeah, because if you claim that atheists are out here being biased against God, that's inaccurate.
I didn't say
What
that.
is that?
I literally, that's what you claimed in the
Okay.
opposite.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is that, yeah, Christians are biased in their science, and the majority
I'm
of
not a
atheists
Christian. I'm
are
not talking about specific Christians. I'm talking theists. People who believe that there may be some sort of God. That doesn't necessarily color it in any specific way. Obviously, theists can do a lot of good scientific work the same way that atheists do a lot of good scientific work and
Not
can be
quite.
good people. It's ridiculous.
No one argued about the good people, but the measure of their
The good-
work is not equal.
Okay, you're just living in a fantasy world.
Okay.
Because where would we be in mathematics if we didn't have Isaac Newton?
I don't understand. Okay.
Yeah, but it
Or
wasn't.
where would we be if we didn't
wait,
have
listen.
Dawkins?
There's a
When we're trying
clarification
to
you're
explain
missing.
evolution.
Wait, stop.
These are atheists.
They were
There's a
both
problem you're not
theists.
Stop. There's a
But
problem
they're
you're missing.
atheists.
Their development in mathematics
it's
happened
not an atheist.
independently of the religion that was present. It's just that the religion was present and it pervades society across a large proportion of the world.
Well, that's a
So
good
to say that
recontextualizing of history, but that's not how it played out.
To say that the only reason they developed these concepts is because of religion
I
is
didn't say
effectively
that,
false.
and I've already corrected Boss PvP on it, and I'll correct you on it too. I did not say that.
Isaac Newton did believe in a god. He was not an atheist.
He was an alchemist.
He believed in science and God.
Yep.
What's the relevance of that?
Well, because
Yeah.
I'm just stating because Boss PvP said that was incorrect. I just want to reestablish that.
Well, he
was
actually
saying
said that
the
theists
truth
can't
on
do
that.
scientific work because apparently they're incompetent if you happen to be a theist.
That's not what I said, but sure,
That
buddy.
is exactly your quote.
That's exactly what I said. You're a fucking moron because that's not what I said.
Okay, well now you can run away from it, but that's not my point. I just pointed out this in front
I'm
of
not
everybody
running
to see.
anywhere. I'm right here on the microphone, buddy.
Yeah, and you can run away from your own quote, or you can cop out to it.
I didn't quote that. You're like,
You
you're
did
just
not
putting words in
say
my
that
mouth.
I would question the work of theists in the scientific field because they happen to be theists. You did not say that just a few minutes ago.
He said that there was
Crazy.
more
Currently,
atheists.
the people in science are bringing mysticism into the field of physics, and what that means is that they're basically misrepresenting concepts in the field of physics to then attribute it to their preconceived notion that like all is God or whatever.
Do all theists do that, or just a very minute, idiotic population?
The ones,
The majority
ones
of
that
them.
believe in mysticism
Yeah, that's just false.
do. That's what they do. They basically bring
You live
red
in an
herrings.
imaginary
You're
world.
talking about young Earth creationists. I'm not talking about that.
No, I'm talking about anyone that says God is like indefinitely real.
Okay, cool. So Isaac Newton contributed nothing.
I don't know. We can't say God knew. We can't say he
Even
definitely knew God was real.
Even if he believed in
heavens.
God,
We can't
it
say that he
doesn't
was
mean that his
believing
God
development
belief
in
has
science
no
was because of
bearing on
God.
how you function as a scientist if you're doing good work. You might
but these
disagree
people
about
aren't
the
doing
nature
good
of
work.
reality,
Yeah, the
but
point is that they're not
but
doing
your
good work.
theistic belief. Okay, then Isaac Newton contributed nothing.
Isaac Newton was doing good work, and yet the physicists nowadays
This is
who try
such
and
a
bring
this is
mysticism
such
into
a
it are
lowbrow
not.
argument.
And you're fighting for it so harshly.
Yeah, I'm disproving this idiotic notion that just theistic belief somehow makes you a moron or dishonest, and it's blatantly plain.
No, what I was saying is that like the theist scientists are coming up with less useful things than the atheist scientists.
Probably because you have a
Today's
view
time
bias.
with 32,
Yeah.
well, hold on. I think that you could say that for today's time with now scientists that believe in God, it only makes up 33% of all scientists right now. But in the past,
That's
where a
true.
lot of the scientists
Well, we
did
can't.
believe
Where
in
did you get
some,
that number?
Well, that's
well,
because
it's an actual
scientism
percentage.
came.
We're not gonna
Scientists,
cite the
science
source.
came from the Christian Enlightenment, and the Christians were trying to prove God through science, and that's where science like really started kicking off.
Well, I
And
understand this, but what I'm saying is there was scientists in the past, very successful scientists that did believe in God. Your argument is valid for now, but
Mhm.
like in today's time. But I
I see what you're
feel
Their
saying.
your argument is
discoveries
less.
weren't based on God, though.
You said
Their
what?
discoveries were independent of their belief
Well,
on God.
Of course not. No
we're
one's
not
not
arguing
arguing
that.
that.
I was just commenting on what Boss PvP's statement was regarding people that are atheist was more successful than those that didn't believe in
Currently,
than
yeah.
those that believed in there was a
Nowadays,
God.
that's a fact.
Yeah, by
Yeah, I would say
population
nowadays
variety,
it
not
is. Yes.
like because there's more atheists in the field, but that doesn't mean that the theists there don't also do good work.
No,
They're
that's not
just
true.
smaller in the minority.
No, if you actually look at the theories
So
that are
you
being
are just
produced,
saying that theists are just dumber than atheists by
I can't
fiat.
help.
That is what you're saying.
I don't determine if the atheist or the theist come up with more practical science.
Yeah, I
don't
know. I
determine
think you're
that.
terrible at it. Because I don't think you could substantiate anything you just said.
Except you have like a bunch of people agreeing with me and disagreeing with you, so I'm not
Yeah,
just
I'm
pulling
not
shit
a
out of my ass.
bandwagon follower. I don't give a shit what they say. I'm giving a shit about what's
can't
true. You can be a good
substantiate that God
theist.
wasn't fabricated.
He's not even
I
listening to what we're
didn't.
saying.
Boop is not even actually engaging in the conversation. Boss PvP. What my point here is that you can be a theist, so you don't have to base the entirety of your scientific work on God. You can still work as a good scientist
Yeah,
and
sure.
also be a theist.
So why don't you find us a theist scientist that has discovered anything relatively recent that has benefited humanity in any like measurable way?
This conversation's boring. Who cares?
I'm just not even going to
Such
engage
a
with this
boring
dude. He's trolling.
conversation.
I'm sorry, you don't have data, buddy. GG's.
You're just trolling. Like this isn't a
GG's.
real conversation.
It's a pointless conversation. Like, who cares about who's making scientific? Who cares? Who cares who's making scientific discoveries? It tells you nothing about whether or not what they believe is true. So it's
Well, that wasn't the conversation.
That's why I said their discovery is independent
it's just
of their
boring.
belief on
Like,
God.
why would you want to even talk about
Sorry,
that?
your interest is not peaked at the moment, my friend.
It's not, because it's a very boring conversation. Can we talk about something else, like something
What
interesting?
indicates
Like,
God wasn't fabricated?
sure, that's perhaps a better discussion to have.
Has anyone seen Star Trek, like the movie?
Somebody repeat what was said. What's a better conversation? I was still.
What's a better conversation is what indicates that God wasn't fabricated.
Oh.
The Bible.
Well, what indicates that the Bible wasn't
That was a troll.
fabricated?
That was a troll. That was a troll.
I mean, I'd agree that the Bible does indicate that. I just don't believe that the Bible. I don't believe that shows that the Bible.
Yeah, the Bible makes the
is not
claims.
also
It's not the
fabricated.
evidence.
I think that mostly God belief and the people the way of structured religions have been all man-made cages to try to describe the ineffable, to get hold of that God concept. I think that a lot of religions are fabricated to a degree to sort of symbolize this experience they had with something beyond themselves. So I wouldn't say that the religion isn't fabricated, because to a degree they all are. But I do think that they are trying to reach at something important and true.
I just think that like some really
Yeah,
intelligent
I agree with
people at a time period understood that if we create an idea that you can't question and you're not supposed to question, and you're just supposed to assume
Burn
it's
forever if
true.
you question it.
It seems like
yeah,
a really
there are
good
people
idea.
who do terrible things with ideas. Yes.
Yeah, and
You could say that about
existed
anything.
then,
man.
it conveys
You
today.
could say that any idea is like trying to get at some truth or whatever the fuck you said. Like anything could do that. It doesn't have to be religion. It could be literally anything.
But is Christianity not the most questioned religion in the world? By far it is. So who
That's
says
a
it's
biased
like a...
statement.
Well, it's probably the most questioned
I would
because it's
say
the most
Everyone in this
sweet.
group
Or
chat
one
is
of the
doing
most.
it.
Yeah, it's really
Everyone's
popular,
questioning
so
this
it does
faith.
have a lot of questioning involved in it. I do think Christianity's been questioned a heck of a lot, probably for good reason and because of scribal errors.
No, I think it's because it challenges people's view of the world better than any other religion.
LOL.
Mm,
No, it's because it's the most popular. I don't.
Why so?
It does
agree that
challenge
maybe
other
Why is it the most
people's
popular?
personal stuff,
popular,
though.
but
Well,
regardless, I mean,
if you want to know why it's the most popular, you have to go into a lot of history and a lot of wars, and kind of read about that and read about politics that went on thousands of years ago. There's a lot of things that made it popular.
As far as I'm aware, when it became the official religion of Rome, and it, I assume in that
Yeah,
process it destroyed all other pagan religions,
that was a big part of it. Yes.
crusading the removing the pagan religions from Europe and colonization. That's probably the biggest reasons why I can imagine
Yeah.
Christianity is the biggest faith.
Yep. Those are some of the biggest ones. You're definitely right.
Is this fair to cast a stone if it grew in those sorts of manners? We don't really know the exact context of those times. Right? I think it's the belief of God that builds a country. And I know where I was going to get.
Hold on.
It's the belief in
I
God
think you're getting into a new topic though, because we were talking about why you were saying it's the most popular or the most questioned because it makes people question their view of the world the most. And I was saying no, it's the most questioned because it's the most popular, and it's the most popular because of you actually named a bunch of reasons, right? And so that's really the reason why it's the most questioned is because it's the most popular. There's a lot of people who are skeptical of it because they know of the idea. You know, it's just any religion that's the most popular would be
Gonna have the most scrutiny.
questioned religion for sure. Like,
but could it be that people have a difficult time believing that their existence in and of itself is such a blessing, that they truly were made in God's image and likeness, that they're very much like God? I think it's a great responsibility that comes with that sort of wisdom.
This
And maybe
narrative,
some people
man.
don't want to accept it. I think we're all
This
very
narrative.
much like God.
yeah, this just
And
sounds
how
like
God
sophistry,
interacts with
though.
us.
It doesn't really sound. It doesn't really sound like there's any
Psychobabble.
substance to anything.
Well, I'm not trying to deceive people. It's just it's the one of the, at least as far as I'm aware, it's the only religion that has indicated that we can have a relationship with God. And this is what
No, wrong.
Islam does the same thing, though I
Islam,
disagree with Islam
Hinduism does
more.
the same thing.
I don't know about Hinduism, but
If you read that Bhagavad Gita, it says you can have a relationship with Krishna.
Yeah, the Bhagavad Gita, yes, the Bhagavad Gita talks about. Well, have you? Okay, wait, Fascist, real quick. Have you read the Bhagavad Gita? First of all,
I'm not reading anything that's not the Bible. I'm not reading outside.
Okay, so to explain it, there is a
Remain
character
ignorant.
called. Well, the reason I'm asking is because there's a
talks
character named
about the
Krishna,
supreme being.
and Krishna, Krishna reveals himself to be an avatar to sorry, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. It's going to make me look like a jerk. Avatar to
Uneducated.
the guy, the main character guy, and Arjuna. Yeah, so Krishna reveals himself as the supreme creator to Arjuna on the battlefield, and basically helps him overcome a crisis and how they are friends, that they've been friends their entire life, that Krishna is an avatar of God and that he came down into a man and to be on the front line of this important battle that would decide the fate of, I guess, India at the time, would be the narrative. It's not unique to Christianity, but I will say that God dying for you and like sacrificing himself for you is a very unique concept to Christianity, and it did it better than all of the other religions around at the same time. So that's why it's so popular, is because it spoke to the soul and the heart more than any other religion. At that time,
interesting to hear, but
I'm not buying that though. I think it's the most popular because of the
Catholicism.
strength of the nation, the strength of the nations that followed it, and the strength of the leaders who were convinced by it was very high.
One could also argue that it's incredibly popular because it was easy. Like, not easy in the sense that the text is easy to read, but more so easy in the sense that a lot of the times Christianity would reach out to people who were illiterate or hard of reading. And so they would specifically appeal to people by yelling in the streets and things like that. That's why proselytization is so foundational to Christianity. Whereas something like Judaism, for example, you can never fully convert unless if you're ethnically Jewish, as well as the fact that you have to be extremely well read to even be respected.
We all need to be Jews,
Jewish people are so fucking based.
for sure.
No, their Talmud is
Literal
extremely wicked.
financial literacy is just insane.
If you guys hate Nazis, then the Talmud is pretty much that manifest. Like they've become the very thing that they despised. Right?
The
If you want to be a
Talmud
part of a,
is
if you want to be a
Nazi
part of an ethnic
Hitler.
cult, if you want to be a part of an ethnic cult, right?
Like religion?
That's
Yeah,
Christianity is
I
not an
did come
ethnic
from
cult.
a
Anybody
Mormon
can be a
family,
Christian.
so
This is why the Pharisees and scribes killed Jesus, because they didn't like the idea that, oh my God, here's a religion
Gentiles.
that everybody. Yeah, they didn't like the fact that everybody can be Christian. Everybody's holy. God loves everybody.
That's a very tribal, very
no,
tribal
they killed him
mechanism.
because they thought he was crazy. Like that's why they did that. It's because he was fucking crazy to them,
No, because
and he was
you're
spreading
egotistical.
false word.
No,
Well, you could say that they're being.
God came down to the earth and told the Jews, just because you follow the 10 Commandments doesn't mean you're going to go to heaven, right? And this is very important because
You realize that they didn't like give a shit, right? Like I understand that you believe this, but from a Jewish perspective, this guy's like yelling in the fucking streets saying that he's the son of God, and he hasn't even killed anybody yet. Like